Alright guys, so I was just out riding this 1985 Honda Magna VF 700, but it's given me an issue that it actually had when I bought it. But it's just, I think anyways, it's a pretty simple issue, and before I do it, I think all that it takes to fix it, I just figured I would show you, because when I bought it, my buddy's dad showed me how to do it, and I appreciated him doing it, so the least I can do is share a little bit of his knowledge and hopefully save you guys from thinking that it's something worse like I did, because whenever it happened to me, I was pretty worried about it because I was new, or this is my first street bike, so, and I wasn't familiar at all with a hydraulic clutch. But yeah, I'll get right into it. Okay, so the problem that this bike was giving me was I was sitting at a stoplight, clutch in all the way, in first gear, and it's still wanting to creep forward. So you have to hold down on the back brake or hold in the front brake to be still. And even then, you can tell it wants to stall out because that clutch just isn't being engaged. And I rode it all the way home like that, and the more I was riding it, the spongier this felt, all the way up until the point I pretty much had no clutch whatsoever. So the two things that you might have to do is either bleed this down, or like what my buddy's dad did whenever I first got it, is literally just take the cap off of this reservoir, use shop towels or whatever you have laying around to suck everything out of here without getting more air trapped down in there. But I'll get into that. But yeah, something to note, you always want to make sure you're using the right brake fluid. You do not have to go with anything expensive. Brake fluid is brake fluid for the most part, but it is very specific that you use what it says on here. And if for some crazy reason it doesn't say that, just look up the manual for your machine. But like this says, use only .3 or .4, so you wouldn't want to use anything other than those two. Don't quote me on it. I think you could actually use .5.1, but still, don't quote me on that. But anyways, all right, let's get into it. All right, so for this, legitimately, all that you will need is some brake fluid that matches up with what it says on here, and a Phillips head screwdriver to take this off, and that is legitimately all you need. If it turns into me needing to actually bleed the brakes, I might need a jar, and if I want to go the extra step, just like a little bit of line or something to have it run into it. But we'll get into all that when it happens. But for now, all that I'm going to do is kind of inspect how it looks in here, because sometimes, especially with a bike from the 80s, and specifically a bike from the 80s that hasn't had its brake fluid flushed and bled in a lot of years, it's very common that it gets all gunked up and just yucky brake fluid. Yeah, it kind of turns into almost like a gel looking thing in the bottom, but yeah. Yeah, all bikes are going to be looking a little bit different, but for the most part, it's kind of just the cap. You might have like a little plastic thing, and then you'll have that rubber seal that goes over there as well. Set that to the side. Something to note, you definitely want to, I would say, be meticulously clean about it, because anything with brakes, you really don't want to get a little speck of dirt or anything in there. Like even on the cap, the cleaner and more spotless you can have, the better. It's better to be safe than sorry. But Alright, so straight off the bat, this is kind of interesting. It's basically empty, which that's something that I actually should have said firstly. You always want to inspect under your bike to see if anything's dripping. I see two little wet spots right there, which totally is potential, but I honestly don't think that's brake fluid. I think I was actually already there, but just in case, let's inspect. So go follow the line down, because there could be a pinhole in the line, which if that's the case, probably best just getting a new line at that point. But yeah, there's a line that comes down from the front brake and a line that comes down from the hydraulic, or hydraulic clutch and hydraulic front brake. But Alright, so from what I'm seeing, it is not seeming to be dripping. I'm guessing it just needs more brake fluid. This hasn't been changed in so long, and you can see, like I said, how dirty and gunked up that is, and just how dirty it gets over time from sitting and whatnot. But yeah. So I'm going to clean that out with a little bit of shop towels. I'll try and set the camera up and give you somewhat of a good angle, but yeah, I am by no means anywhere even close to an expert at hydraulics, but I will say I have a KTM 200 2004, and that thing has been a pain in the butt trying to get the front brake to bleed. And I rebuilt the master cylinder, put in like a new plunger and everything. Still nothing, and so I think it's got, I don't think it's the line, so I think I actually ordered up a new caliper for the front brake, which I think that will do it. But point being is, yeah, I'm not an expert whatsoever. I think slowly I'm learning some stuff, and learning, most importantly, the stuff that you don't want to do. Like, you don't want to, right now, I don't want to mess with this, especially because I'm taking all of this old crap out, because I don't want to get any more air in the line, if there is any in the line to begin with. And when I top this off and fill it up, if the problem goes away, obviously we know it's fixed and that's all it needed. But if that is not the case, then we know we got to bleed the brakes. But I'm hoping that it is simple as that. There's a cricket in the garage right here. I'm just soaking up a little bit of that excess. I kind of made a little bit, or put in a little bit more than I actually needed. Which, another thing to note, you should technically wear gloves, but do it at your own carefulness, I guess. I have never had any issues with it, but I know you're supposed to wear gloves, and it is important not to overflow it too much and get it all over stuff, especially any paint, because it is a paint remover. I'm pretty sure it literally says on the bottle of most brake fluid. It's like, this is an effective paint remover. But alright, so I'm gonna try and see if I can give you some better lighting here. But yeah, so that's fresh brake fluid in there. Hopefully that's easy enough to see, but I'm gonna pump up the brakes a little bit, or the clutch rather, but just to show you all of that gunk that's coming out of that little hole in the bottom. Like every time I pump it, it is just more and more of that gunk coming out. Hopefully you can see how quickly this is getting dirty. And I honestly do think that there might be an air bubble somewhere in there, because just the way that the clutch is feeling, I kind of feel like we may need to bleed it down. But okay, it is starting to feel a lot better than it, or actually night and day from where it was feeling. But I still think it could be a little bit better. But what I'm going to do is leave it exactly how it is. And honestly, like either off camera or on camera, but I'll refresh that up if what I'm doing works right now, but which I think it should. But I'll throw on the helmet mount or whatever and go for a quick ride. It's dark out, but just to show you if it still does what it was doing, you can see that. But if it's fixed, then that'll be the end of the video. Alrighty folks, for the moment of truth, yeah, sorry if the camera angle isn't that good, but it's literally just for seeing. That is awesome. Oops. Alright, hopefully you saw literally any of that. But, yeah, that's freaking sweet. Sometimes it is stuff that is just that unbelievably easy. Like I said, I'll probably freshen this up. Something else I forgot to say. When you're putting these screws in, no need at all to tighten these down very tight. Tighten them down. Obviously, this is overflow. I still need to wipe this off. But tighten them down to just the point where you're feeling get tight. I don't know how else to say that, but just there's no need to crank them down is all that I'm trying to say, I guess, especially whenever this cover isn't made of plastic like this. Like whenever it's I think they're aluminum. I'm pretty sure this is what they're usually made out of, or at least on the KTM. Those screws, it's really important to the lips of them. Just put a little bit of grease on them, because ideally whenever you do this, you're done for at least a year or two at the worst, or whatever I'm trying to say here. But yeah, you're not wanting to do it again is all that I'm saying. And if you don't grease them up, in 3 years from now you got to do the same thing. Sometimes those will be stuck in there pretty good, and for whatever reason, whoever designs this shit makes them a Phillips head, and that's like the easiest thing to strip out in the world. But anyways, yeah, that was pretty dang easy. I hope this video will help at least one person. But yeah, thank you. All right, have a good one, and have a good night. Safe riding. That is a nice truck. But anyways, final and last thing I forgot to say is obviously I could have bled the brakes. Could have. I honestly don't feel like it, and there's no need because the problem is fixed. But if you want to go the extra mile, I'll say, and just get it all done with and out of your mind, and just knowing it's all been refilled or flushed or whatever, it is really simple. There's this bleeder right here. I've never actually bled the brakes on this Honda, but it's, I'm assuming, the exact same as the KTM. There's a little bleeder right here. Pop that open. There's a nut somewhere, which, oh wait, yeah, sorry. It's just harder to see for some weird reason, but I have like no fingernails, so this might take a second, but okay. So this is the little bleeder nipple. Use a wrench of unknown size, I'm guessing like a 7mm. But crack that open, it'll start dripping. Like I said, I've never actually bled the brakes on here, but I would imagine you can pretty easily just gravity bleed these. You can literally set a mason jar right here, let them bleed down, have this cap off, have that .4 or whatever ready to go, and you'll see the reservoir start getting emptier. You never want it to fully empty, because you're just going to be chasing your tail, as I've heard a lot of people say. Chasing your tail because you're just going to be feeding air bubbles back into the hydraulic line. But yeah, alright, that is literally it. What the hell did I not say? I don't know. But yeah, that's it. I think that is all for today.